Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the 35th CIHA World Congress. No? This is a little... I think we're waiting for the virtual guests, right? All right. Good afternoon. Welcome to the 35th CIHA World Congress, Motion Migrations. I hope everyone came in safe and that we have a very enjoyable Congress. In this opening, we invited the people, institution and people that were most directly involved in realizing this event to say a few words. So I will start asking the Goethe Institute Director, Matthias Markowski, to start. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you so much. My name is Matthias Markowski. I am the director of the Goethe Institute here in Sao Paulo, and it's a pleasure and a real great honor for me to welcome you all today here to Sao Paulo and digitally all over the world for the opening ceremony of the 35th CIHA World Congress here at the Goethe Institute. I feel particularly honored to be given the first world here. For me, as a family man and a husband, I rarely get the first world. So I appreciate it very much to have the opportunity today. But joking besides, you can consider yourselves lucky that this event can take place in hybrid format this week. I would like to congratulate the organizers most of all. The Goethe Institute is also proud to be able to contribute to the international exchange of knowledge as one of the hosts to this conference. For us, it is one of the first major events we have ever been able to hold since 2020 in our premises, with so many participants physically. Like all other cultural and educational institutions, the pandemic has forced us to move our work into the digital space. That this has worked amazingly well has been one of the positive surprises during this time. However, our experiences are also the reason why we have to conduct this Congress with special precautions. Therefore, and in the interest of us all, I really ask you to follow the Corona rules, which we all have been familiar with for the last 2 years. Culture, however, thrives on personal exchange, on interjections, on unexpected and unscheduled ones, and last but not least, on conversation during the breaks. I hope that this week will offer you all enough opportunities to intensify your exchanges and to establish or to deepen personal contacts. The Goethe Institute itself participates in this Congress with a video installation by Mieke Ball, Nothing is Missing, which you can watch in our library. Above all, I especially wish the young participants among us their first good experiences in the international world of science. And finally, I would like to thank once again all those who made this event possible. I wish all of you a good start to the conference, a successful meeting, and thank you for listening to me for so long. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Matthias. I will now ask Joan Weinstein from the Getty Institute to say some words. We just wait. We cannot hear you. We can see you, but not hear you. Not yet. But try now. Sorry.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Fantastic.
Yikes.
Very loud.
So I move away from the microphone. That's a really bad echo.
A little further away from the microphone, so yeah, okay. Yeah, thank you.
So greetings to all of you from Los Angeles. Is that too much of an echo, Claudia?
I think it's good. Thank you.
Okay. I had so hoped to be with you in person today to formally open the 35th CIHA World Congress. I believe this is the first CIHA Congress in almost 20 years that I've missed. So it's a particular disappointment for me not to be there in person. Since its founding, the Getty has always had a very special relationship with CIHA. This is either the 9th or 10th CIHA Congress the Getty Foundation has had the privilege to support, helping to bring speakers and delegates from countries that might otherwise not be able to participate. Reading the program again last night reminded me just how far CIHA has come in its ambition to create a more fully international platform for art history. And while CIHA itself may have had its ups and downs over the years, it is still the only international professional organization in our discipline, and one that we need now, quite honestly, much more than ever. I remember quite well the closing of the first half of the 35th Congress in Florence, when we confidently expressed our intention to see one another again in Brazil in less than a year's time. And here we are, over 2 years later, during a generation-defining worldwide pandemic, and so many other fundamental changes that have impacted our lives so deeply over the last 2 years. We come together at a time of profound threat, and not just from the pandemic. As you know only too well, threats to academic freedom are proliferating and accelerating in almost every part of the world, including state-directed cyber surveillance against members of the academic community, the closing of independent universities, and the shift to metrics in judging academic work, which too often prioritize national importance in funding and tenure decisions. At first, these threats seemed localized or specifically national. Increasingly, though, they appear global and connected to rising popularism and authoritarianism. Even avowedly democratic countries, such as my own, are not exempt. While we push back on many fronts and in many places, one of the most important bulwarks to these trends is our ability to stay connected to one another in a kind of international solidarity. While the pandemic has certainly made it harder for us to do this in person, as on this occasion, I want to congratulate the organizers of the Sao Paulo Congress for their adaptability and their ingenuity in creating this hybrid event so that we could still come together in productive debate. From the very beginning of their planning, I have watched the organizers carefully, and I've seen how they've taken the Sao Paulo portion of the Congress as an opportunity to reinvigorate the discipline and CIHA itself. And a signpost of this, for me at least, is the energetic incorporation of so many graduate students and emerging scholars into the Congress, breathing new life into the proceedings, I'm sure, and introducing young scholars from around the world to one another at the outset of their careers. The Getty is particularly pleased that we could support this effort. Another way the organizers have energized the Congress is a clear-eyed focus on themes that impact every one of us, from the migration of people and ideas, including forced migrations, to the intersections of migration, climate change, and surveillance. The themes meet the moment. I know it's going to test our mettle this week to engage virtually from around the world. I'm not a great morning person, but I promise my best to get up early and be with you for each of the sessions. I, for one, think it will be well worth the effort for us to do so and to maintain this international solidarity. I want to congratulate the entire organizing committee, with special thanks to Claudia Matos for her dedication and hard work in getting us here today and for her ongoing cooperation with the Getty. Thank you so much, and I wish you all a wonderful Congress.
Thank you so much, Joan, for these very encouraging words. I would like to ask Caroline Fowler from the Clark Art Institute to say some words now. Seems that she is not online. Okay, is Franz online? Yes, okay. Try to reconnect with Caroline. And meanwhile, let's give the words to Franz Neulich from the Institut National d'Histoire de l'Art in Paris.
Bonjour, bom dia. Hello to everyone. I speak here on behalf of Éric de Chassé, director of the Institut National d'Histoire de l'Art, the INHA, and also on behalf of all our teams. I would like to express our great joy at the opening of the 35th CIHA Congress today, and at the encounters and the perspective of the encounters in the days to come. I would also like to salute, like John Weinstein just did, the extraordinary resilience of the Congress organizers. After 2 successive postponements, we are really rejoicing to finally be able to hear the speakers who are coming together from all over the world to discuss the issues raised by the theme of migration. Coming together is perhaps a little overstatement, since the current context deprives us of a real physical meeting. But nevertheless, even as a hybrid meeting, the Congress brings us together across continents. And in a way, the context of the pandemic puts the theme back in the spotlight with all the economic, political, sanitary, ecological, cultural, ideological issues it raises and brings to burst. It makes us even more sensitive to the deprivation and exclusions that it generates, and on which we will be led to reflect in the days to come, especially when it comes to arts. 2 years ago, we had planned to create connections and rebounds between the CIHA Congress of Sao Paulo and the programming of the Institut National d'Histoire de l'Art. And we particularly wished to create links between the Congress and the Festival de l'Histoire de l'Art, which for the past 10 years is held annually in June in Fontainebleau in France. As the festival brings together an international community, we had dreamed with the organizers of the Sao Paulo Congress of so many pathways. We had really beautiful ideas of creating resonance effects around the issue of migration, which the pandemic, unfortunately, and its disruption of agendas prevented. But if the pandemic has prevented our echo programming, we will nevertheless keep on working on that idea. And we will, of course, propose this year an open floor to the French Committee of Art History, which will lead, among other things, a roundtable on the history of CIHA and on the history of its congresses. The French Committee will also present the main lines of the next Congress planned in France, in Lyon, in 2024, of which the Institut National d'Histoire de l'Art will, of course, be a partner and a fervent supporter as well. Created 20 years ago, the INHA is still a youngster next to the venerable National Art History Committees. It draws much of its DNA from the transnational dialogue promoted by the CIHA and also aims to be a hub for all scientific communities of art historians around the globe. I therefore would like to repeat here on the occasion of the CIHA Congress that, like my colleagues who are speaking at the opening, that all these institutions are driven by the idea of CIHA and are meant to welcome and gather all art historians throughout the world. In 20 years, the INHA, the Institut National d'Histoire de l'Art, has welcomed more than 400 international researchers in very diverse research and scholarship programs. And we really want, especially now, to continue this momentum, working with you on the circulation of objects, materials, peoples, and ideas, and pursuing the ideal of a transnational community engaged in active and critical dialogue. Whether it is a matter, as in some of our research programs, of reflecting on the epistemological reflexes of art historians in the face of African objects, as the current discussion might shed a specific light on, or writing a global history of critical and cultural reviews, unearthing unpublished corpora, or bring together disciplines to understand how, through time, not only objects circulated, but also materials, techniques, know-how, men, women, in short, to better apprehend the stakes of the history of art in the long articulation of its intersecting histories and its impact on our intermingled societies today. We believe very much in the necessity to be on the field, to see the objects inside, to touch, feel, scrutinize them, but also to touch and reach out to our interlocutors, to move around and to decenter ourselves. And we would like to support scholars to do so in as many ways as possible. And that is, I think, why we are so particularly sorry not to be able to be in Brazil physically today. And I think that I can speak in the name of many of my French colleagues here too, who wanted to attend in person the Congress in Sao Paulo. And for all these reasons, the Institut National d'Histoire de l'Art brings all its wholehearted support to the Congress of Sao Paulo. And we wish that the session may not be the completion of a project, but the beginning of many new adventures. And I would like to express a huge gratitude to the organizers once again for having accomplished here this meeting around absolutely crucial subjects for today's world. And I wish all of you a very, very good Congress. Thank you to all of you.
Thank you very much, Franz. Now I think Caroline Fowler from the Clark Art Institute is online. So I would like to ask her to say a few words.
Well, welcome everyone. I'm so sorry that I cannot be there at the Congress in person. We're actually having a blizzard today, so I'm sorry for many reasons. But it was been such an honor over the year last year to take part in hosting the Art Worlds of Brazil lecture series leading up to this Congress and seeing the extraordinary thriving discipline of art history within Brazil and having the opportunity to see the ways in which the discipline of art history has developed and grown and offers a very different epistemological viewpoint and method than that we often think of within North America or the United States. So I am particularly sad that I will not be able to attend the CIHA Congress and meet interesting speakers that took part in our Art Worlds of Brazil lecture series, which is really an honor to host. But first and foremost, particularly as an administrator who often organizes these types of events, just a huge congratulations to all the conveners of this Congress. It must have been such an extraordinary amount of work. And with the shifting dates and the constant changing due to COVID protocols, I very much deeply admire all of you and your perseverance and resilience. And it's wonderful that you're hosting the Congress now and today. So I wish you all luck as the Congress progresses. I'm sure it will be wonderful. I look forward to tuning in to many of the papers online remotely. And I turn it back to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Caroline. So now I would like to invite my colleague from CBHA, the Brazilian National Committee, to say a few words for us. Marco.
Good afternoon. The Brazilian Art History Committee was founded in the 3rd of June in 1972 at the residence of Ambassador Joaquim de Souza Leão in the city of Rio de Janeiro, and on the 9th of June in São Paulo in the residence of Araci Amaral, by a group of art historians headed by Walter Zanini and based on conversations he had with Jacques Tullier, then Secretary of the CIHA. Until then, Brazil had only been represented occasionally by Rodrigo Melo Franco de Andrade. The 16-member group constituted the then National Committee of CIHA. The first art history colloquium took place at the Museum of Contemporary Art of the University of São Paulo in the Biennial Building in 1975. During the assembly, the CIHA colloquium in Copenhagen was discussed, in which it was noted that then there was no representation of African or Asian countries in the CIHA, and that it was necessary a reorganization process. In 1979, on the occasion of the 50th colloquium, the association decided, during the process of its legal regulation, to name it as it is now, Brazilian Art History Committee, affiliated to CIHA. Relations between the CBHA and the CIHA changed over time, with greater independence from the Brazilian Committee and even a certain distance from the International Committee. Thanks to the efforts of several members, highlighting the work of Cláudia Matos, a new link was built, which led to the holding of an international seminar in 2015, and now the Congress, originally scheduled for 2020 and postponed due to the pandemic. This year, with 19 associated members, the CBHA will celebrate 50 years with a large open colloquium in Rio de Janeiro to be held in November. It is therefore an honor for us to host the same year the CIHA International Congress, today represented by nations from all continents, and with the presentation of works in person or virtual by many young art historians. On behalf of the Brazilian Art History Committee, we welcome all of you and wish you an excellent, fruitful, and safe Congress. Very thank you.
Thank you, Marco. Thank you for the hard work also and collaborating with. He is from the organization committee as well. So now I would like to call my dear colleague, Marzia Fayetti from CIHA, our president of CIHA.
Ciao Claudia, buon dia a tutti. It is with great joy that I participate in the opening of the second part of the 35th CIHA Congress. A long time has passed since September 2019, when we were in Florence to celebrate the first part of this unique edition that was born from the fruitful collaboration between two countries. The delay, as everyone knows, was caused by a global calamity, the pandemic that has impacted and still impacts so much on our collective and private lives. We could even periodize historical events of the third millennium, adopting the beginning of 2020 as the watershed that defines our new ante and post-quem. Yet, the Brazilian colleagues did not give up on their part of the Congress and continued to organize it, adapting flexibly to the historical circumstances. I want to thank them on behalf of the World CIHA as their efforts to carry out this Congress go far beyond what is usually poured into a cultural event, even in one of this magnitude. Their commitment shows the vitality of the CIHA and its cultural objectives, which do not falter even in the most difficult moments. The shared presidency of Claudia Matos and I began only a few months ago, in the middle of what I'd almost refer to as a modern Iron Age. If I were to compare to our idea of a golden age, the previous presidencies, and I want to thank all our predecessors for their exceptional and generous work. But such point of view is not what the current period needs. Paradoxically, we must look at a positive aspect of every situation. Today, we are all gathered here, either in person or virtually, to start the CIHA Congress. A few months ago, the committees from Portugal, Sweden, Georgia, Finland, and Israel have joined or rejoined the CIHA, while another country, Estonia, has applied to join. India is now part of the board through a member of its committee. As for the CIHA official website, it is managed with great efficiency by way the World Art History Institute at Shanghai International Studies University. The same institute also assists with the organization and editing work of the CIHA e-journal, and Claudia and I sincerely invite everyone who is attending this Congress to contribute to that journal with proposals and publications. The CIHA Continuous Cultural Planning manifests in the conference already announced for 2023 in Switzerland, and others still under preparation in Spain. And while the work for the 36th CIHA Congress set in Lyon in 2024 is continuing, we can therefore say that the vitality of the CIHA remains unbroken despite the evident limitation primarily in travel and interpersonal exchange. Travel teaches disorientation, to always feel like a foreigner in one's life, even at home. But being a foreigner amongst foreigners is perhaps the only way to truly be brothers. For this reason, the purpose of travel is man. As Claudio Magri stated in L'infinito viaggiare, his words always moved me, and I hope that the human purpose of travel he refers to will be reached soon. CIHA resembles an ideal family. Since my first experience at the Melbourne Congress in 2008, I met many people whose face became familiar in the following years. Sadly, one of them, Frederick Asher, Rick, is no longer with us. I remember him as an active man, attentive, extremely energetic, and warm in expressing his support to research projects. We all know his profile as a scholar specialized in Indian art, as a professor at the University of Minnesota. We certainly admire his astonishing erudition and expertise, all qualities that it's not possible to adequately illustrate in the short time allotted. I will only recall Rick's contribution to the CIHA Congresses of Melbourne and Nuremberg and to the Naruto Colloquium, and his recent book, Sornet, a critical history of the place where Buddhism began. I offer these brief words to his wife, Catherine, his Cathy, who is attending today's Congress. To conclude, I warmly greet all those who are here today and wish buon lavoro to both the present Congress and future CIHA activities. Buon lavoro.
Thank you so much, Marcia, for your kind words and for honoring our colleague, Rick Asher, who was a very, very important member of CIHA for many years. Well, now I am presenting myself, I guess. My name is Claudia Matos Avolesi, as all of you already know, and I'll just want to say a few words to inspire us to start our work. Good afternoon. On behalf of the CIHA Organization Committee, I want to welcome everyone to the 35th CIHA World Congress Motion Migrations. It is an immense pleasure to be here today, fulfilling the dream of bringing CIHA Congress to South America and to Brazil for the first time. The Congress is also a historical mark within CIHA because it involves the collaboration of two member countries, Brazil and Italy. In 2019, the first part of the event occurred in Florence, and now we give continuity to our discussions here in Brazil. I want to thank our Italian colleagues for accepting this challenge and this adventure. We are also grateful to all our partners and sponsors, to the Goethe Institute in São Paulo for hosting the event, and also for sponsoring the exhibition of Mickey Ball's work, which you can see in the library and on Thursday morning in a screening here in this auditorium. A huge thanks to Mickey Ball as well, who initially was supposed to be in São Paulo but couldn't come, but is present through her work. To the Getty Foundation for the invaluable support that enabled many of our participants to come to São Paulo through a generous grant and made the hybrid model of this Congress possible. To the Clark Art Institute for working with us on the wonderful pre-Congress program Art Worlds of Brazil, which made a series of virtual lectures on Brazilian art collections and heritage available on their website. To the Terra Foundation for American Art for the support in organizing one session on the migration of the Americas. To the Brazilian agencies FAPESP and CNPq for their important financial assistance. To NCHA, the American Art History Society, for bringing US participants and for helping organize the wonderful Congress parties that we're having in many institutions across the world. To INESHA and to the Italian Culture Institutes. A very special thanks goes to all my colleagues at CBHA, and particularly to the organization committee that worked hard throughout so many years to make this event possible. CIHA World Congresses are a huge enterprise in normal conditions, but to organize the Congress amidst the adversities of COVID-19 pandemic was a Herculean task. As you all know, the Congress was originally planned to occur in 2020 and had to be postponed twice. I know how disruptive this process was for everyone involved, and we want to thank each participant for continuing to commit to the Congress despite of so many difficulties. To me, this translates into the desire to build community, collaborate, and to share our experiences across borders. Therefore, if there is one lesson that we learned in the process of putting together this conference, was that we can count on each other. This is a valuable thought, especially for Brazilian scholars now. In 2022, Brazil is celebrating its 200 years of independence, but unfortunately at a very difficult moment. In 2018, Brazil elected a government that threw the country into chaos. Among others, they launched aggressive campaigns against science and culture, dismantling universities and museums, and exercising censorship. When COVID-19 arrived, they campaigned against vaccines, spreading fake news, while continuing to allow the destruction of our tropical forests in unprecedented rhythm. Indigenous people and other minorities to be violated in their rights, and in many cases, directly exterminated. One of the immediate consequences of the present government was the dramatic increase in migration. Just in 2021, 57,000 Brazilians were caught at the US border trying to enter illegally, an increase of 700%. The country is losing its engineers, doctors, professors, artists, and art historians. When we first proposed the theme Migrations in 2016 for the São Paulo Congress, the world was very different. I recall thinking mostly about mobility, globalization, circulation of people, objects, and ideas, only peripherally on hindrances. Many years later, the theme is more contemporary than ever. However, it now mostly implies barriers, retention, violent segregations, closed downs for us humans, and a world with no frontiers for the virus. We have come to understand the limitations of our anthropocentric utopias and our dependency on the environment. This said, I look at the Congress logo and realize how visionary Ricardo Basbaum, the artist that drew the logo, was, since it really resembles a virus. All this profound transformation in our lives has deeply impacted the humanities and specifically how we do art history. I am sure that many of these issues will be reasoned throughout this week, along with many others. We are delighted that we managed to come together as a community to think about migrations in this specific moment of crisis. We should never forget that moments of crisis are also amazing opportunities to change for the better. We wish us all a wonderful and productive Congress and a very nice day in São Paulo. Stay safe. Thank you very much. Well, thank everyone that took part. I think now each one of you already know where the session is, I hope. If not, there are people that can direct you to your session. And we will start at 2:30. Thank you for all of it.